Good afternoon. Thanks everyone for joining the webinar today. We're going to focus on how you can accelerate your not-for-profit's mission success with Sage Intacct software. And today we are very happy to welcome Maria Tomaszkowski from Sage as our special guest, who's going to be showing the software. After a few perfunctory slides that we know always happen. Also online is Modos Mohammed. He is the Business Development Manager here at Pur-Logic. And I'm Faye Somenson. I'm one of the managing partners here at Pur-Logic. Few housekeeping notes. We are going to be recording this session. It'll be available on our YouTube channel, our website, and we'll also be sending it out to attendees. We're going to do our best to stick to the allotted time today. So if you do have questions, please put them into the chat box and we'll do our best to get them answered at the end. Otherwise, we'll reach out to you and answer your questions. So let's dive right in. So Sage Intacct, it's a top provider of cloud financial applications to nonprofit organizations around the world. It's endorsed by the AICPA and consistently it's ranked as a top choice by G2 Crowd surveys. As a best-in-class accounting solution, Intacct allows you to build unique solutions for each of your organizations. So you'll see different applications, Intacct in the center, everything from payroll, CRM, Salesforce, bill.com, AP automation, all of these things are integrated into Sage Intacct that you can pick and choose what you want your specific Intacct solution to do. It specializes in helping nonprofits of all types, including charities, membership associations, foundations, faith-based churches. We see a lot of those in the US. So the power of this platform, the Sage Intacct platform, is not only accounting, but most important, the dashboard. So everything feeds into these dashboards where if you're doing grants, funds, projects, donor accounting, it gives you real-time visibility to all these metrics and you can report off them quickly, cut down your close time, and report back to your team members in a very timely fashion geared to the nonprofit market. So we know there's a lot of key areas of frustration for NFPs, lack of real-time visibility into key metrics, your budgets, what's happening, budgets to actuals, we need those quickly. Manual time-consuming reporting, how do you slice and dice your data? How are your grants doing? How are your projects doing? Who's your top donors? All of those things are things that increasingly now we want to see those in a minute on our dashboard. So there's a lot of inefficiencies in delays due to lack of integration. You might have a donor application software. You might have an accounts payable software. You might have a different payroll software. And all of those don't speak back in a really concise fashion to the core financial accounting software. And then process automation, getting, obviously we all know more and more important, AP automation, PO automation, all leading to organizational efficiencies that we can get with this modern cloud-based application. So here are things that we want to do. We want to perhaps automate our revenue recognition, allocate spending towards different mission goals that we're trying to achieve, demonstrate transparency. Where is our money coming from? Where is it going? And our dashboards, we can share these dashboards, we can collaborate, we can talk to each other through chat. How are things going? And then real time. So this is very, very key. We're not waiting a month for information. We have a really fast month-end close. Now, and there was a great, in the last slide, there's a white paper on the future of nonprofits and Sage Intacct And we're going to be happy to send that out to you as a thank you for attending the webinar. So really, Sage Nonprofit, as we mentioned, very strong in the not-for-profit vertical. So hundreds of non-for-profits are already using it. And it doesn't really matter your dollar range. If it's 2 million to 200 million, multi-sites, multi-grants. So you're going to see in the demo how we handle all different grants through entities underneath our top level of our software. So, which is really something when you think of the old traditional segments in our account, maybe we've got a spreadsheet tracking funds. So how all of that gets streamlined. So on the side, you see some people who are already taking advantage and using Sage Intacct, including Canadian Cardiovascular Society. Just going to point out some Canadians, the United Way of Greater Toronto, Community Foundations, and there is a whole host of other not-for-profits who are using Sage Intacct in Canada. So really, just some metrics that people have found by switching over to Sage Intacct. Their monthly close, as we mentioned, greatly accelerated. Staff are moving to more productive tasks. Your board reporting, it takes a minute versus hours and days to prepare it. Budget accuracy. And again, we stress reduced financial statement work. You're going to be amazed by what you see this software can do. So here's a few examples. Meals on Wheels America, they put out a success story and there's a video. Software paid for itself in 2 months. University Clinical Health, operating costs went down by $500,000. Hopi Tribe Economic Development Corps, cash flows were improved by $500,000. So this software, geared for NFPs, focused on NFPs, and really brings clarity to your organization. So here, because we're really cognizant of time, and we know that seeing is believing, we're going to hand it over to Maria, and she's going to go through a demo of the Sage Intacct live demo of the software. So right now, I'm just going to make Maria the presenter.
Faye, if you could have the demo agenda up for a moment, and then I'll share my screen after. Thank you.
Yep. There you go. And we are going to turn our cameras off just so that all the bandwidth is going into the demonstration. And you don't need to see us.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. So nice to present here today with Pur-Logic. So here's the demo agenda for today. So we'll look at dashboards and dimensions, handling multiple entities or multiple funds, procure to pay with approvals, spend management, and transaction allocations. Then I'll go into cash management, budgeting, and reporting. And finally, I'll end with our NFP grants or projects module. So you'll see just how easy it is to gain visibility through dashboards and dynamic reporting, access your data in real time, automate your allocations and bank reconciliation, improve your workflow and enable approvals, make better business decisions, manage projects, and much more. So let's get right into the demo. I'll go ahead and share my screen. Okay, Faye, can you please confirm that you see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Awesome.
If anyone can't see the screen, just quick drop us a note in the chat box.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Let's get straight to the demo. So I'm logged in here to my Sage Intacct not-for-profit demo company as Carla Grace. Carla Grace is the controller and a business user with full admin rights. I'll preface this by saying that I am going to demo from the top level of a multi-entity or multi-fund environment. You can set up user-based permissions or role-based permissions to set the applications and permissions for each role when roles are assigned to one or more users. This is a more flexible and scalable solution if you have multiple employees with the same role. So I'll switch here to another one of my employees, another one of the users. So we have Mary here. Mary is an employee and she has limited access from a entity or fund perspective. She also has limited access from an application perspective. Okay, so you have the flexibility to decide who has access to what and how much access. Before I go back to Carla's screen, I wanted to point out Sage Intacct's product updates. So Sage Intacct releases 4 updates per year and they're installed automatically, so there's no disruption to you. Of course, it's a fully cloud-based solution, so you don't need an IT to manage an on-premise solution. So I'll go back to Carla here. We can see that I'm accessing the CFO's dashboard, which is a role-based dashboard. And you'll notice that I have other role-based dashboards available to me as well, such as the controller's dashboard. So as soon as I click on the controller's dashboard, we see right away how instantly the view changes according to what's most relevant to this role and what's been added. You have access to multiple out-of-the-box dashboards, as you saw here, and you can also create and configure them to your needs. Dashboards can be locked down by entity or fund, by location, and by user. We have some incredible reporting tools for the dashboard that will allow you to build them. It's very easy to add components to your dashboard. Simply click on the plus sign, and then from here, you'll be able to choose component types that you want to add. Do you want to add a chart, a performance card, a record, a report, a smart link, or to collaborate with other users or collaborate feed? It'll do whatever you need it to do within a few clicks, and you don't need to know how to code. I'll go back to the CFO's dashboard. So at the top here, you'll notice that we can filter by date. Okay, so let's go and take a look at 2014. Some of my sample data is entered for previous years, but of course the logic remains the same if you're working in the current year. And next to the date, we have filters for dimensions. So the ones that I've enabled here are departments, we have entities or funds, and then I've also enabled projects or grants. So let's say I want to take a look at one of my funds. I'll choose Entity 100 or my general fund and click apply. And again, we see how instantly everything on the dashboard updates, right? Now we can also do combinations here. So let's take the example that somebody would like to analyze a specific department. I'll go with counseling services. And maybe they want to analyze multiple campaigns or grants or projects that roll up into a large group, or what we would call a dimension group. So I'm going to go ahead and choose my campaign group, hit apply, and again, the dashboard updates instantly. Now, some of the data here may not apply to the filters I've chosen, but I think you get the idea. So let me clear these out. And we'll have some data available now some more data available on the dashboard. Okay, so whether you want to analyze one dimension, multiple dimensions, or dimension groups, you can slice and dice the data as you wish. You can enable other dimensions on your dashboard. So we'll go here into the filters. And you'll see, of course, I've enabled the department, fund, and project or grant. But you can enable other dimensions such as like restrictions, sites, customers or vendors, etc. You can also rename these dimensions to the terminology that your organization uses or add user-defined dimensions. So these dimensions allow you to create complex and meaningful financial reports and dashboards with full flexibility and capability. Along the top here, I have what we call performance cards. So they capture financial data, statistical data, and computations. I can compare the information to a prior period or to a budget. And we can see easily how it's doing with an indicator like a thumbs up or an arrow pointing down. And we can also drag and drop components of the dashboard so that I can customize my view from here. Now, if you need to track, statistical data that's related to your mission, like how many awards were issued or how many meals were served, I can track all that information on here. I see that the number of awards issued increased compared to the prior year, as well as the number of gifts. I can also track computations. So I see that the average meal cost per student has increased by $8 compared to the prior year. So it's very important to have this visibility in real time. When you're going out and looking for funding and your funders are asking, well, how much are you spending on administrative expenses versus how much are you putting into programs? You have that information available in an instant to you. Having the system calculate that in real time will give you that immediate visibility into your organization. I hope this gives you a good idea of how to make this an entire mission-driven solution where you're not just focusing on your budget versus actual, but the calculations and metrics you need to serve people and go out and get more funding. And if things start to go wrong, you can drill down further into the details to find out where the issue is. So I'll drill down here into my G&A expenses. And now I see my budget to actuals. So maybe I want to take a look here at my travel expenses, specifically lodging. So I see that the actual has gone over budget. I can click into the number and there is full drill down capability. Okay, so again, from here, I have access to the general ledger report. And again, I can click into the specific journal entries from here. Okay. So of course, I see the posting details, the accounts, the relevant dimensions, the amounts, and I have a full audit trail with date and timestamp as well as the user. And if I'd like, I can attach any information, any documents that I need in here. And something that we have here at the bottom is what we call our Collaborate feed. So Sage Intacct's Collaborate feed allows you to tag someone and ask a question. So maybe I want to ask my employee June why she's traveling so much right now. So it keeps a constant thread of communication within Intacct. You don't have to email someone about looking up a specific entry and trying to find out what was last said. There's also a complete history in here in case anyone leaves your organization, and it's especially useful for audit purposes. Collaborate is available throughout the platform. Just close out of here. Okay, and drill down capability exists throughout the system. So below the performance cards, I have other things like charts and graphs. This becomes a great presentation tool. If you're having board meetings, many of our not-for-profit customers are using a not-for-profit board book or a graphical representation of their data. And if anyone has a question about any of the data, we can drill down into it for further detail. Other organizations such as yours have cut their board reporting time from hours to minutes. I have reports on my dashboard here as well. So you'll see my statement of revenues and expenditures, actual versus budget. And I can also clearly see in red where I've gone over budget, and I may need to analyze it further. Again, we can drill down into the specific numbers from here. So if I go into special events, for example, again, it will take me to the general ledger report, and I can drill down further into the specific journal entries as you saw earlier. Over on the right, I've added in approvals. So a setup like this would help you access them all in one place and be able to approve in a timely manner. From the dashboard, Carla can approve any pending journal entries, purchases, expenses, timesheets, bills, payments. So I'm going to go into the journal entries here. Go ahead and open that up. we see that J, an employee, has submitted 2 journal entries. Okay, so these journal entries are now pending and awaiting approval. So from here, Carla can view, approve, or decline them. Now, you may have noticed that these 2 transactions have 2 different symbols in the outlier column. We have an AI machine learning service called the GL Outlier Detection, which proactively catches errors by scoring transactions. This ensures accuracy as journal entries are approved and calls attention to what requires a closer look. If we look at the first entry, there is no issue because I always code this entry to this department for this amount of $250. So the counseling services to $250. Now, if we take a look at the second entry with the outlier, we actually notice that there are 2 coding issues. So the first one tells me that the amount is unusual for $500,000. And the second outlier warns me that this amount with this department is unusual because I've selected a different department here for the youth center. Right? So the outlier could be a coding issue such as the account or dimension used. It could be an amount or multiple outliers. It's really there to mitigate risk and reduce errors. Approvers can hover over the icons to find out more information about the outlier. And this information is, of course, helpful when determining whether to approve or decline a journal entry. In our latest release, one of the new enhancements is that you can decide if the approver user or submitter can review the outliers before submitting the entry, giving you even greater control. Obviously, for this one, I would decline it. Think about how this could help you mitigate risk. The last component I wanted to show you below approvals is the working checklist. So I'll go ahead and open this one up. And we'll go into a working checklist, which is in progress. Here we go. So this is very useful for month-end close. You can stay on top of tasks that need to be performed, as well as being able to see the progress and status for each assigned user. We see the assignment, the description, the start and due dates, the employee assigned, the status, if it's in progress, completed, or not yet started. Another great way to use Collaborate here is to get updates on assignments and ask if anyone needs help completing a task that is overdue. Other not-for-profits have accelerated their monthly close by 50%, with Sage Intacct giving their finance team time to focus on more strategic initiatives related to their mission. A question for you all to think about is how much more visibility do you have with Sage Intacct's dynamic dashboards compared to your current system? So let me start here from the top level. Sage Intacct's multi-entity architecture allows you to access the individual entities or funds, work at the entity level, and then see how the organization is doing overall from the top level. These entities or funds, in my case, roll up and consolidate into the top. If you have access to the top level, you can use the top level of a multi-entity or multi-fund shared company to work with shared data, such as accounts or departments. Think of this as a bird's eye view of all your entities or funds. You can see that I'm accessing my organization from the top level, but I can slide into my other entities, or I should say funds in my case, if my permissions allow it. So it's very easy for me to slide into one of the funds. I'll go into the general fund. You see now it opens in a new tab. So now I can work directly from here, and I have all of my applications available to me. Let me go back to the top level and show you the entity or fund setup. So Sage Intacct's multi-entity architecture makes it easy to set up new entities or funds within minutes. These entities or funds can inherit your existing lists, process definitions, chart of accounts, or they can be configured with completely unique definitions. So we see the individual entities or funds here, and each one is configured with its own information. We can also set up the relationships between the entities through inter-entity account mapping. So here we can see the inter-entity account mapping that's been set up for all entities or funds and the relationships between them on one central page. We can save time and reduce manual entry by automating your inter-entity transactions and easily transferring money between funds. So to summarize, Sage Intacct can handle multiple entities and multiple funds. You're able to view consolidated financials from the top level, and international not-for-profit organizations who deal with multi-currency and global consolidation are able to better manage their organization with Sage Intacct. Another question I'd like you to think about is how much time our system could save you and how much more efficient your team could be with it. Let's move on to purchasing. So purchasing works in conjunction with accounts payable. You could have employees entering purchase requisitions or purchase orders into the system and submitting them for approval. You have the flexibility to configure different transaction definitions and set up a workflow that works for your organization instead of having to fit into a one-size-fits-all workflow. You'll notice on my screen that we also have approvals, so you can have a structured approval process in place. Let's say that employees on your end will enter a purchase order and submit it for approval. Before I go in to approve the transaction, I'll show you how approvals are set up and how Sage Intacct does all of this very well through my approval policies. So here you have the flexibility to define these as you wish. I have 4 here, but you may not need this many in your workflow. I'll go in to edit the purchase order transaction definition. So we currently see that Carla Grace is the named user to approve all purchase orders, and you'll shortly see how she will approve them. We can set up multiple rule types here. So under the rule type, I can decide if I'd like value approval, department approval, employee manager approval, a specific user to approve, or a combination of these rules. You'll also have a multi-tier level of approval as well. I'm going to go ahead and choose value approval and edit. So let's say that, anywhere from $0 to $500, I would like a minimum of 1 approver. And then anywhere from 500 to say 1,000, I would like a minimum of 2 approvers and so forth. The approver level will be defined in the user's record. So you can see how easily we are able to set that up for you. Let me go into my purchase orders. Sorry, give me 1 second. I think I changed that. Nope, it's all good. Okay, so it's still Carla. I wanted to make sure it wasn't set to value approval. So I'll go into my purchase orders. We see at the top here that a purchase order has been submitted. We can also enable email notifications for alerts so Carla can approve in a timely manner. She can go back to her dashboard, which you saw in the beginning, with all the approvals in one place, or she can simply go to approve transactions and see them all from here. From here, she can view, approve, or decline them. So let's go in to view this purchase order, which her employee Penny submitted. Okay. So Carla is able to see all of the information as well as any PO or document that may have been attached. So she is able to view the attachment and then, of course, the entry information below. And if we look at the history tab, we see that Penny is the employee who submitted it. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and approve it. And you have the option to leave a comment as well, whether you've approved or declined it. Okay, now it's been approved. So if we go back to our purchase order screen, we see that the state has changed now from submitted to pending, right? Again, if we go in to view it and I go into the history tab, right, we see now that Carla Grace has approved it. Okay. And now in the next step, I want to go ahead and convert it to a purchase invoice. So all of the information transfers over. And Of course, I can make any changes if need be. I'm just going to enter a vendor document number. And then I can go ahead and post it. Okay, so we can see now that it's under our vendor invoice screen. Now, this invoice will also show in our accounts payable module under bills because the two modules work together. And there it is. It's sitting at the top. Let me go back into the overview. So in the accounts payable module, you can also enable approvals for bills and payments as well. So I can go through a similar process to approve them. And once you're ready to pay bills, you'll go to this screen. And I can choose to pay one or multiple bills from here. Of course, I can choose from different payment methods, the account, and then I can go ahead and pay it from here. Something else I wanted to cover in our purchasing module is spend management. So this is an optional additional module, which many not-for-profits benefit from in order to help them make better and easier purchasing decisions, allowing them to track against their budget. With spend management, you'll know immediately if you've gone over budget while transactions are being entered in the system. So I'm going to go ahead into this purchase order, which has already been created here. We'll go in to view it. And of course, we see the entry information below. We see that it's for $15,000, the department, the project. And you'll notice here I have a button for Show Spend Insight. So when I click into this button, this pop-up appears. I see that in this case, I am well over budget based off of the general ledger account and department, right? I can see my budget, my actual, my committed expenditures, this purchase which I posted, and the funds available. So since I needed to actually spend this money, I went ahead and posted this transaction with a warning. Once posted, the budget administrator would receive an email that purchasing transactions have been submitted, which exceed the budget, and can further evaluate why the actual is so much more than the budgeted amount and adjust accordingly. We can configure the system to do a hard stop and not allow the user to post. However, in most scenarios, I'd say you really need to proceed and spend the money. The final piece I wanted to cover on the AP side today is transaction allocations. So if I go back to bills, I'm going to go ahead and create a bill. And we'll choose one of my vendors here, maybe ABC Office Supplies. I'll enter an amount. Let's just go with $100. And then you'll notice that I have a column here for allocations. Okay, so I have defined my transaction allocation definitions. Transaction allocations will automatically do the allocation for you by percent, exact value, or fixed amount with over/under logic. I'll choose one of my allocations, which I've already defined, called East Lake Split. You'll notice now the other dimensions are grayed out. So when I click into Show Details, it has automatically applied my transaction definition of 50-50 split between the counseling services and food service department, which I defined in the definition. Now, if you want to choose multiple dimensions or more complex percentages, you have the freedom to do so. I'll choose a different allocation here. Let's look at utilities, for example. And again, if I go into Show Details, we now see that it has split across multiple departments, right? The amounts, and we can also enable it for multiple dimensions as well. Like here we have restrictions, sites, and projects. So look at how easily we were able to automate that for you. We also have an additional module called Dynamic Allocations for allocations you do at the end of the month after the fact for employee benefits and indirect costs, but I won't be covering it today. So you were able to see how easy it is to implement an approval process, have better control of internal processes, and better manage spend, as well as automating your allocations. think about how you can better manage procure to pay with Sage Intacct. Let's go into the cash management module next. So this is where you can set up your bank accounts, credit cards, make deposits, transfer funds, and run a reconciliation. Bank Feeds in Sage Intacct allows you to automate your bank reconciliation by connecting to your bank or credit card account online. We download the transactions and match them for you. You can also create matching rules so that the system will know how to match transactions. For example, matching a lump sum transaction in Sage Intacct to multiple transactions which went through your bank. This will not only save you time, but it'll also reduce errors caused by hours spent on manual data entry. So let me show you how that works. Before I reconcile, I'll go into my checking accounts, and I can go in to edit one of my accounts which isn't set up yet with Bank Feeds. You'll notice in the Banking Cloud tab, we can click Connect. And from here, I'm able to connect to my bank and, of course, credit card account. So I'll switch here to Canadian banks. We see a list of major banks here. And in the search bar, you can also search for other banks and credit unions as well. So we're not just limited to the major banks, but you can also search for connect to other banks and credit unions. So now I'll go in to reconcile my bank account. And I'll choose one of my accounts which is already connected to Bank Feeds. I'll need to choose the account to reconcile, the statement ending date and statement ending balance. I'm just going to go ahead and leave it as that balance. So we'll click Continue. And you'll notice at the top, it tells me that the Bank Feed status is connected. Okay, so all of the transactions have already successfully downloaded. I'm going to make some changes here and choose all states and all transaction types. And now if you take a look here on the right hand side, we have a column for state. Okay, so state will show you if the transactions are matched or unmatched. For the unmatched ones, I can either look for them if potentially they are already entered in the system, or I have the ability to create transactions directly from here under more action. So if I want to create, journal entries, payments, receipts, deposits, etc. So you can create transactions directly from this screen, which will again make your reconciliation process much quicker. And the final thing is that I can also create matching rules. So I'll go into my rules here. If we take a look at the first rule, so we notice here at the bottom, these are the matching conditions. So the amount must match, the document number, and the posting date. However, sometimes the date you entered it in Sage Intacct and the date it actually went through the bank may be off by a day or two. So we can say that it needs to match within 1 or 2 days. Okay. So the other two rules that I've set up are many to one and one to many. So let's say you entered individual transactions in Sage, but the payment lump summed in the bank or vice versa. You can now match multiple entries to a lump sum. Bank Feeds automation has increased accounting teams' efficiency by 25% and helped speed up month end. Think about how much time this is going to save you each month and how it'll reduce the number of human errors caused by hours spent on manual bank reconciliation. Next, let's go into budgets. So of course, we all know that, it's very important for not-for-profit organizations for budgeting, right? So budgeting within our core financials would allow you to easily create, copy, or import your budgets across all dimensions, quickly update it by amount or percent, improve visibility into budgets versus actuals, as well as forecast, and view multiple budgets on a single report. I'll go into the budgets repository here. You can see that I have multiple working budgets. I'll go into the budget details for my operating budget, and you can see how I've budgeted here. We see the account title, the department, and any other dimension I may have budgeted to, the fund, the project or grant, the restriction, the site, etc. So I also have my other dimensions available as well if I want to budget by those different dimensions. Now, let's say I want to add an account or edit an existing account. I'll go here and go with, let's go with office supplies. Okay. Now, I can budget just this account if I want to, but I can again choose my different dimensions. So maybe I want to choose a specific fund, and maybe let's go with a project. Okay. The next thing I need to do here is set my periods for to and from, right? So let's go with this year, January 2022, and let's go until December 31st. And now because I'm doing a monthly budget, right, we see each month of this year. So now let's say I want to set a budget of $1,000, and I'll choose the periods here, and we'll go with $1,000 and hit compute. So right away we see how the budget updates for the month. Now let's say we want to grow the budget by 5%. Again, I'll just enter 5 and hit compute. And once again, we see how the budget updated automatically. So on the note here, we have a notes column, and I'm also able to see these notes in my budget report or on my budget analysis dashboard. So we'll go to that dashboard. Okay, so along the top, I have a department comparison budget to actual view. And I actually noticed that conference expenses have gone well over budget for the counseling services department. So what I did in my Collaborate feed, I actually took a screenshot and I've tagged my employee June from this department to review the budget. And then from here, you know, June can collaborate with me. She can send a revised Excel or give an explanation for, you know, the increased expenses. Over to the right here, I have my expenditures budget to actual by month. I also have a trend. We have my statement of revenues and expenses and my budget report with a column for notes. So other not-for-profit organizations have improved their budget accuracy by 30%. Let's dive deeper into reporting. So all reports can be viewed from our report center, which is the central hub. We have 150 out-of-the-box reports that you can run directly from here. You can also access your favorite and memorize reports. You can edit existing reports so you don't have to create them from scratch. You can also export reports to different formats. And under more actions, you're able to schedule reports to go out. So for example, when I close my books, I want my financial statements to go to specific users via email or a shared location like OneDrive. You can put it on a schedule and it'll happen automatically. Beyond the standard reports, you'll get a financial report writer. It makes it very easy to create your own reports. You don't need to know how to code. The solution was created by accountants for accountants, so creating reports is very easy. It acts as a wizard and takes you through step by step how to create a report. I'll create a simple, let's go with P&L by fund. And I can enter the name there. I can also define a report type or a report audience, and then define if I want to structure it by accounts or dimensions. Next, we'll go into the rows. And here we can decide which accounts we want to see. I'll grab my change in net assets group. This includes all of the accounts that I would like to see. And now I can choose if I want to roll up the accounts or if I want to display the details. I'm going to go ahead and choose summary. Next is to go into columns. So from here, I can customize my columns. I'll leave column 1 as is. And in column 2, I will leave the column type as actual, but I want you to notice here that you have a number of different column types available, such as account attributes, computations, period comparison, budget, forecast, etc. I'll leave the reporting period to the current month, but again, you do have other reporting periods to choose from. And then what I would like to do here is I want to expand this by my funds. Okay, so I'm able to expand the actuals now by fund. And I'm going to go ahead and add another column because I also want to look at my budget. Okay, so I'll go here and this time I'm going to choose budget, and now I'm able to choose which budget. Since I have multiple budgets, I'm going to choose my operating budget, and I'll leave this one as the current month as well. And maybe for this one, I also want to expand it by my different dimensions. So you'll notice here you can choose different dimensions like your departments, projects, restrictions, etc. So I'll go ahead and choose funds here. And I just want to point out at the bottom that you also have other things available such as conditional highlighting, color scale, sparkline, etc. And we have other options available when building your report, such as computations, filters, formats, notations. These are, especially useful for audit purposes, and permissions, of course, if you want to choose who has access to this report. The last step is to enter the as of date. Go ahead and choose 2014 there. And I can actually preview this report before saving it. So I'm going to go ahead and click preview. And there is the report broken out by my different funds with a column for all funds. Again, because I chose summary here, if I'd like, I can expand and contract the rows here. And you see how now I have a drill down capability into the numbers. Okay, so I hope you've seen how quickly and easy it is to create a report and customize your various rows, columns, etc. How does this look compared to what you're currently doing? I'd like you to think about your current, the way that you're currently doing reporting. Other organizations such as yours have cut reporting from 20 hours to minutes with our robust reporting tools and redeployed staff to more productive tasks. I'd like to end with our NFP grants or projects module. Okay. So not only can we handle fund accounting and multiple entities, but we have applications that are specifically designed for not-for-profits. Our NFP grants or projects module helps you track and manage your grants and programs, create tasks, assign employee resources, enter timesheets and employee expenses for approval, and generate invoices automatically for billing and revenue recognition. This module works in conjunction with our revenue recognition module as well as time and expenses. Let's start out on the grant manager's dashboard. So below the performance cards here, you have a grant positions report. So here I'm able to see all my grants and awards with various balances displayed here. Many financial solutions can capture the revenue booked and what's been spent, but not what's remaining. Understanding what grants have been awarded, the remaining draw, and what's left to spend allows for more adequate tracking, monitoring, and decision-making processes with instant visibility. Let's go back to view my projects or grants. So I'll go into projects or grants, and I've displayed the hierarchy here. So you can see the parent-child relationships. You can track funding sources in a separate segment or use parent-child relationships to track them. So for example, I have my health initiative grant here as the parent, and then the 3 awards that are related to this grant from 2013, 2015, and 2017 as the children, which roll up to the parent for reporting. I can assign a category to know if it's a contract or an internal non-billable grant or project. I can track the status, right? Has the grant been applied for? Is it active? Has the project been completed, etc.? Grants can be linked to projects, programs, initiatives, events, contracts, or any other terminology which your organization may use to define the type. And I can also track customers and grant manager as well as tasks. I'll go in here into my Skuski Foundation Award tasks, and we'll go into the first one here. So by setting up the different tasks, I can set the planned start and end dates, mark tasks as billable, identify if it's dependent on another task, and then in additional information, we can recognize revenue in the proper period based on terms, conditions, and milestones, and enter the duration and calculated percent completed. In resource scheduling, I can schedule resources to my various tasks. So let's look a little bit deeper into one of the projects or grants. So I'll go here into my 2013 to 2015 Health Initiative Grant Award. So there are many configuration options in here to help you better track your projects and grants. You can set up the project or grant information, the customer for billing, the parent grant to report on roll-up if you would like to invoice with the parent, the status, which also controls the types of transactions users can post to the project, and you can assign a grant or project manager to view grants by manager and reporting as well for approving timesheets and expenses related to projects and grants, and also transaction rules, so you can automate additional journal entries such as overhead costs. In the additional information tab, you can define restrictions, for purpose or time, specify when the restriction is set to expire, the duration and progress, the billing type, to determine how billable transactions are included when generating invoices, and you can leverage this if you want to auto-generate invoices to funding sources, the contract amount, and the transactions coded to this grant, the default dimensions for timesheets and expense reports, as well as any relevant documents. In the resources and pricing tab, you can assign employees and set their labor billing rate, which will be multiplied against the time submitted on their timesheets. In the project or grant summary tab, you can view a financial summary of your funds, enter the budgeted billing amount, budgeted cost, and budgeted hours, and compare it against the actuals. See the billable and non-billable hours, as well as the expenses. And in the invoice options tab, you can set the permissions for billing control. Would you like to allow the actuals to exceed the budget? Would you like to issue a warning message? Or would you like to prevent the billing? These are in place to give you more control. Finally, on the last tab, we have tasks. So define the tasks related to this project or grant, which will be used on employee timesheets, and billable tasks can be included on customer invoices, as well as tasks related to revenue recognition for milestones, straight line, or percent complete. The grants or projects module, as I said, works in conjunction with time and expenses. So employees can submit timesheets and expenses for approval, or you can have managers enter it for them, and then expenses and timesheets can then be billed out. So you're able to do this by generating invoices directly from the grants module. So if I go into generate invoices, this form will pop up. I can choose from different invoicing templates. I can set the date. I can invoice by customer or project or grant, select from my project or grant. And then I can create a pre-bill report. I can preview the invoice and select the billable items, and then generate invoices automatically from here. And the last thing I want to show you today is I want to end on probably one of my favorite dashboards for fundraising efficiency. So I can see the different metrics in here that are important to me, such as the contributions by campaign or project, grant awards, giving by restriction, fundraising cost per donor, and so forth. Our robust capability with this NFP grants module can help you manage grants and projects more efficiently and more strategically. That's the demo for today. I hope it's given you a good overview of Sage Intacct's robust capability and how to make this an entire mission-driven solution. I believe you were able to see why we do so well in the not-for-profit space. I'll go over a quick demo summary of what we saw today. Awesome, thanks so much. So this is everything we covered today. I know it was a lot in this time period. So we looked at dashboards and various components which can be added to the dashboard, as well as being able to slice and dice the data by dimensions, giving you greater visibility. We looked at drill down capability throughout the system and getting to the source and details from the top level, being able to collaborate throughout the system at all levels. You saw how easy it is to manage multiple entities or multiple funds and report on them and view consolidated financials from the top level. We looked at improving workflows, approval processes, and using additional modules like spend management to help you make better business decisions. You saw automation through transaction allocations and bank feeds, as well as managing your grants or projects and automating revenue recognition. Finally, we looked at reporting and how seamless it is to build dynamic reports. Thank you so much for attending the demo today. And thank you to the Pur-Logic team as well.
Thank you, Maria. That was amazing. There's nothing like seeing something live to get everybody excited and to validate the functionality. So many demos are, you know, a lot of PowerPoint screens where you never get to see the software in action. Today, actually, don't see any questions because Maria was very, very thorough. So we do have our contact numbers on screen. 800-372-6174. You can reach out to sales at Pur-Logic or to Mo or Faye at Pur-Logic. If you have any questions or you want to dive in deeper with us on the software, just a reminder, this was recorded. And so we will be sending you out a copy of the presentation so that you have it to reference to. And we'll also be sending out a link to the YouTube channel and our website. And on that note, again, thank you, Maria, for this presentation. It was wonderful.
Thank you.